I'm sitting here with an old mate of mine. We've been competitors, sparring partners for probably about 10 years. Please, sir, introduce yourself and tell me a bit about your background.
Well, what a lovely intro, Keith. Derek Pilcher. Been around the space for quite a bit of time now, the online recruitment space in the UK. Started out in the early days with Stepstone, for those of you that remember that, when they were here, of course. Then moved on to Monster and had a five and a half year stint at Monster as on the senior management team, heading up the sales efforts across the UK. And then more recently, the last couple of years, of really taken on a new challenge, building the Ladders brand here in the UK, and really focused on, let's say, communicating the proposition and the real value of the Ladders brand to the UK recruiters and job seekers. So it's been a fun 10 years.
You're an early doors guy like me. What over the last 10 years do you think have been the biggest changes you've observed at 10,000 foot Derek overview?
Where do you want me to start? I mean,
right, job boards.
We're an embryonic industry, Keith. I think the first one was JobServe, I should say. Monster came along, so they were the early pioneers, and I think what they proved along, even with Stepstone, they could drive huge audiences. But I think that was really the issue and the challenge that was then created. And what's happened ever since has sort of like come off the back of that. So number one, we knew the internet adoption would drive huge job-seeking audiences. What then started to happen is the sophistication both of the staffing agencies and also the direct recruiters and the corporate companies across the UK started to focus on adopting the talent pools that they needed to manage that candidate flow, and also the applicant tracking systems to really develop and harness and filter all of that job applicant flow that was coming in the door. And in the early days, that just wasn't happening. So, there was that first coming, as I like to call it, of job boards where, they drove the audience, but the corporate companies and the staffing agencies didn't really get it. The second coming was when the technology companies really came into play to help them and enable them to filter and process that applicant flow into their businesses. So I think that was a really big change that happened over the last, 10 years. I think the other thing that's really started to happen is, in the early days, it was all about the big horizontal job boards. And I think what's clear is we've seen a huge move over the last number of years to, let's call it the niche vertical sites. And I think in the UK, we must be up at thousands of job boards in the UK. The barriers to entry in the UK are relatively minimal. We seem to have new job boards opening every week. But really, if you strip it back, it's now about those that are able to engage with their audience, whether it be on a niche vertical basis as well as a horizontal basis. Can they drive the audience? Can they engage them? And then can they deliver a level of loyalty that's going to engage them moving forward? So there's been a big change in that. And then, of course, I'm sure you're keen to ask me, Keith, about social media. I mean, that's the biggest change that we've seen.
So before I get to social, I've got one more question about job boards. I constantly read about their demise and death. What's your take?
Yeah, this is linked in, if you want to call it, to the rise of social media, no pun intended there. But the reality is, in the old days, there used to be national press, there used to be regional press, there used to be trade titles. Recruiters, whether they be staffing or whether they be in-house corporate recruiters, use multiple routes to market to engage with their audience. I don't see it as any different today. You've got an active candidate that's desperate for a job, looking for the right type of role, versus someone that wants to put themselves out there and make themselves available. Whether it be a direct horizontal big main job board, whether it be a niche job board, or whether it be social media, these are all the routes that employers today should be utilising to engage and interact with their candidates.
Social media. Good thing, bad thing, indifferent thing, threat, opportunity?
Yeah.
What's Derek's take?
Honestly, a bit of everything, I think. I said earlier on that online recruitment in the UK is relatively embryonic. We're still only 15 years in. So in the bigger scheme of things, this industry has a lot more hurdles to face, a lot more hurdles to get over. Social media, there is no doubt in my mind that the ability to provide an easy way for recruiters and corporate companies to engage with their candidates is a good thing. right? And to increase that proximity of engagement has got to be the holy grail. Nevertheless, what I would say is it comes back to the argument of a direct job board in terms of the active candidate versus a social media that drives a very passive candidate. And depending on the needs of the corporate company, what their objectives are they looking to build a talent pool for ongoing communication and engagement, or are they looking to fill roles today? So I think there's a place for social media, and I don't think we're going to see it go away, just in the same way that I think the death of job boards, as it's phrased, is, not something I agree with. But then I would say that, wouldn't I?
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. And I'm now going to get my payment because you're going to buy me a pint.
Indeed.
Cheers a lot. Thank
To the
you.
pub.